Mr. Agnew, please.
I'm on a learning curve here. Coming from the UK, we don't have many wild boar, but we do have a few, I believe, escaped from farms. This disease in the wild boar appears to be very serious, goes through them very quickly. Is it a bit like myxomatosis in rabbits, where they do actually start to recover and develop their own resistance, and once it's been through an area once, the next time it comes, it's not so serious, and eventually you get an equilibrium where it just goes in cycles, and the animals tend to live with it? I don't know enough about the disease. As far as I can see from your talk, there is no zoonotic effect. In other words, unlike bovine TB, which individual people can get, can you confirm that there's no zoonotic effect with the African swine fever? You did mention that there is quite a lot of movement now of Polish workers, and of course they're coming into the UK to work on farms. And are the authorities in the Baltic states and in Poland advertising the fact that these Polish workers who come to the UK could actually be bringing a problem with them? How much education and information is being actually put out? And I think the answer to the next question is no, because you were at pains to talk about a vaccine for lumpy skin disease, but you never mentioned the word vaccine for African swine fever, so presumably there isn't one. And when you talk about stamping it out, what does that actually mean? If you want to stamp out this disease, are you going to try and kill all the wild boar along a frontier area? How do you actually stamp it out?
How do we prepare for that? And that was also raised by the English. I know that there is no wild boar in the UK. Good for the UK, good for Denmark also, where there are very few wild boar or only in zoos. So it's much easier to avoid the disease. But in those countries, the farmers have to be aware. And indeed, farmers coming from the east should be made aware of the danger that they can represent, not only, as I said earlier, with jam, with ham or with salami, but also people walking in the forest. When you walk in the forest, when the virus is there, you come back home with virus on your boots, and that is one of the peculiarities in the Baltic state, where going for mushroom picking is very common in some season, and there we can see also an explosion of outbreaks in backyards. So the most important to prevent the disease or to avoid the rapid spread of the disease is to reduce the number of wild boar before the disease is there. And if the disease is there, to avoid huge viral load in the forest. And we have had a lot of experience with that, and it has been proven to be quite efficient in some member states. If you reduce the viral load in the forest, in the Baltic states, for instance, when you remove the carcass, because the virus remains active for several months in the carcass, when you remove the carcass, you can see a reduction of the outbreaks. Then in relation to vaccine, yes, of course, there is no vaccine available. We are not close to finding a vaccine, but we are spending, and I didn't mention that in my presentation, in research we are spending millions to try to find a vaccine which would be effective, first injection and then later on probably by oral route, but that's not for the close future. On a public health point of view, it has indeed it doesn't represent at all a danger for humans. It's a virus which is not sensitive to humans, so absolutely no danger.
I would like to give Mr. Agnew just a brief intervention.
Yes, one of my points you didn't come back on, and that is the severity of this disease in the wild boar. Do they recover from it the way that rabbits recovered from myxomatosis, and you get an equilibrium effect?
the disease kills the wild boar and the pigs. There are very few, but less than 0.5% who might survive. But the literature confirmed that 100% of animals die from the disease in a very quick period of time, in less than 2-3 days. So that's why, as Dr. Reveriego explained, it's crucial to let the disease kill the animal in a region so that you depopulate that region only by the disease acting on itself, and then you remove the carcasses to avoid the virus to infect a new generation of other animals. But removing the carcass is very important to remove the virus from the forest, especially in area in the north where the ground is frozen during the winter. And when a carcass, an infected carcass, freezes in the ice, when it defrosts in the spring, the virus is still present. And you know that wild boar are eating wild boar, so that's the purpose of removing carcasses from the forest.